This is the World Financial Report on Radio with Harold Siegel. My name is Randy Marshall. Joining us via the telephone, our financial and diamond expert, Harold Siegel. We're taping our show on March 3rd, 2017. Our time is 8:39 Mountain. If you ever miss a radio show, they're archived on Harold's two websites, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, or HESradio.com. We have a podcast as well through iTunes. Type in The World Financial Report on Radio. You will find us there. We're on at 3 o'clock Sunday afternoons on 6:30 CHED. Now, next week, we're going to be on from 2:30 to 3:30 because our Edmonton Oilers have a long homestand. The Montreal Canadiens are coming to town. Montreal and the Oilers at 5 o'clock. The Face-Off Show at 3:30. We will be on from 2:30 to 3:30 next week on 6:30 CHED. Connect with Harold at rarecoloreddiamonds.com, rarecoloreddiamonds.com. Our featured diamond of the week. It's a ring, and it is a beauty. When you go take a look at the video of this featured diamond, it's spectacular. It's a .42 carat radiant cut, fancy light, purplish pink diamond ring. And this ring is a beauty. Check it out online, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, 1-800-432-1022. During the week, U.S. President Donald Trump addressed the Congress. Normally they call it the State of the Union address, but that is after your first year of being in office. It's called the Address to Congress when you've just come into office. And a lot of people were very happy with the speech. In fact, from our point of view, the recommendations that we've been making, and that is obviously get into the U.S. dollar and sell Canadian dollars, set up perfectly. We saw the U.S. dollar go up. We saw the Canadian dollar go down. In fact, the Canadian dollar right now is at 74.5 cents. The U.S. dollar, Harold will give us an update here momentarily. I noticed the other day it was 102. So it's obviously moving in the right direction as predicted by Harold. One of the stories we'll get to after Harold's commentary, there is now a 90% chance of the U.S. Fed raising rates in March. If that happens, U.S. dollar will go up even further. We'll talk about it after Harold's commentary. And Harold, yes, the call of getting into U.S. dollars has been spot on, as we saw after U.S. President Trump addressed the Congress in the United States.
It's only the start of it, Randy. We're going to see one of the biggest bull markets in the U.S. dollar that you have ever seen. And if we don't get on top of this, this is something that we'll regret for an awful long time. In actual fact, it's a no-brainer. I thought that President Trump did an excellent job the other night. I thought that he spoke beautifully, and I think that in the first 30 days that he was in office, he's done an amazing job. So the markets are going to respond to that. The dollar's going to get stronger. We're going to see the Federal Reserve raise interest rates this month. I'm 99% sure that that's going to happen, which will add more strength to the U.S. dollar. Now, the reason that the U.S. dollar actually was a little bit lethargic the last month or so was primarily because some reporter asked Trump about, what he thought of the strength of the dollar, and he wasn't sure that a strong dollar was the best thing for the United States. But, the fact is that there's no stopping it. The United States is the only country in the world that can raise interest rates at this time. And they are going to raise it substantially, at least 3 or 4 times this year and more the year after. So we anticipate that the U.S. dollar will continue to strengthen. Right now it's trading at 102. Just to give you reference to that, in 2011, when gold hit its all-time high of $1,900, the U.S. dollar was at 72 cents, very close to where the Canadian dollar is right now. So the U.S. dollar in 2011 was at 72 cents, and gold was at 1,900. Then the U.S. dollar started to move higher, and gold started to come down. Gold dropped from 1,900 down to 1,100, actually 1,050, and the U.S. dollar went from 72 cents to the 102 level that it's at right now. Now, you would normally think, because there is a direct correlation between gold and the U.S. dollar, that if the U.S. dollar is going to get tremendously strong, which I believe it will, then gold is going to plummet. Well, you would think that, and the fact is that it could do that. However, there's strong support for gold in and around the $1,050 level, and with other situations happening around the world that are not, to do with the U.S. dollar, it's quite concerning, because it certainly appears that President Trump is not afraid to put boots on the ground. He's not afraid to send U.S. troops back into problem areas, and with ISIS, he promised everybody that he's going to eliminate ISIS. And the way he's going to do that is to get down and dirty and get, back into war. And that's what he's going to do. And there's absolutely no doubt that he's going to do that. So President Trump is very aggressive, and he also mentioned during the speech is that he's going to rebuild the United States infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, everything like that. Well, what does that tell us? It tells us that there's other commodities that we can trade in, that you can take positions in, that look very bullish to me. For example, copper. If the U.S. is going to build as much as they're going to build, and let's face it, Donald Trump is a builder. That's what he does. So I believe that copper and steel are going to increase substantially based on the fact that he's going to be building new highways, new roads, new bridges, and everything like that. So over the long term, you may want to look at certain stocks. I'm not saying to buy the futures market on it, because this is a longer term situation than short term, but I would buy some very good quality stocks that are copper manufacturers and steel manufacturers, and just put those away for the longer term, because I believe that they're going to go up substantially. In fact, the price of copper is already starting to look good to me, but I still think it's cheap enough at this point that it would be a good trade. Now, this is not something that I offer personally, but again, we always do give advice on this show and try to lead our listeners and our clients in the right direction. We're extremely excited about the opportunities that my company has for our clients. We've been doing tremendously well in the alternative asset markets. But again, you may want to look into some copper, and you may want to look into some U.S. steel, because I think that those are two major commodities that as Trump starts to rebuild, that we're going to see that those two markets will go up substantially. I still think that the best trade on the entire board right now is buying the U.S. dollar and getting out of Canadian dollars. And this is not a short-term situation. The fact is that when we first recommended to buy gold back in 2000, the U.S. dollar was coming off one of its biggest moves. It was trading at the highest level, pretty well the highest level that it's ever traded at. So when the U.S. dollar is very strong, commodities like gold are very weak. And to give you the best example, during that particular time, we saw in the 90s or just around 2000, we saw the U.S. dollar trading above 115, and then we saw gold all the way down to 250. So when the U.S. dollar is extremely strong, gold has a tendency to sell off, because again, it's an action-reaction type of market. A strong U.S. dollar normally means lower gold prices. We started recommending gold because we felt that the U.S. dollar was too strong and gold was going to start to come down. Gold was going to start to move up, and the U.S. dollar was going to come down, and that turned out to be the biggest bull market in history. Gold ended up going from 250 all the way to 1,900. We literally had clients that made absolute fortunes in that run-up in gold and silver. On top of that, you saw one of the biggest drops in the U.S. dollar as gold was going up, because U.S. dollar dropped from 115 all the way down to 72 cents. What a gigantic move. But that took basically 11 years for that to happen. Now this next bull market in gold is in the U.S. dollar is happening. We've seen it go in 2011. It was at 72.5 cents. Now we're at 102. We're definitely heading towards the 115 levels. It means we're going to make a ton of money in the U.S. dollar. And at that time, and this is a phenomenon that's going on, is that the Canadian dollar is going to fall substantially. In fact, we feel that the Canadian dollar is going to drop all the way down to about the 62 to 65 cent level, which is about a 10-cent drop from where it is right now. My suggestion is to sell your Canadian dollar-based investment. I know it sounds more difficult than it probably is, but many of my clients have already done this. They're out of Canadian dollars, they're in U.S. dollars, and even if they just kept it that way, you'd make probably 20 or 30% return just on the currency trade alone. And if you don't know how to do that, just give me a call and I'll explain it to you and show you exactly how to do it. However, the fact is that the biggest money is being made in U.S. dollars in our private investments with my firm. We have alternative investments where our clients are making over 25% a year, and they're making it in U.S. dollars. You know, the fact is, the way that things are right now, it's almost impossible for people to retire, especially in Canada, because right now the Canadian government left Canadian interest rates at 0.5%. So that means you put your money in the bank, you're getting basically 0.5% return. It's impossible to retire getting 0.5% return, especially since you're going to pay taxes on that, and there's inflation. So the fact is that that is not an option, keeping your money in the bank. And by the way, if you don't know it, the Canadian banks are not safe. There's a bill called C-15 that will put anybody who keeps more than $100,000 in a Canadian bank in jeopardy. And if you don't know about C-15, give me a call and I'll explain it to you and how dangerous it is for you to keep your money in the bank at this point. So what's a person to do? You can't make money by keeping your money in the bank. In fact, soon, interest rates are going to go negative. It means that you're actually going to have to pay the bank in order for them to hold your money. They're no longer going to give you interest on your money. You are going to have to pay them. That's obviously not an option for making any money and for keeping your money in the bank. Basically, what you'll do is just keep enough money in the bank in order to pay your bills, and you've got to find other areas in which to invest. We have private investments that we allow our Canadian clients to partner with us on, and they've been very substantial. And again, we've made the transition of trading our Canadian dollars for U.S. dollars, and that's adding another 20 or 30% to the bottom line. So as we're sitting right now, my clients are making a fortune, and it's all in U.S. dollars. A lot of them, and I've instructed this, is to get out of retirement savings plans. You're not going to make any money in an RSP. Nobody has for the last decade, and the fact is that all you're doing is wasting your time and money putting money into a Canadian retirement savings plan. Give me a call and I'll explain to you what your options are as far as taking that money, converting it to U.S. dollars, and making more than 25% with that money. So again, Randy, at this point, there's tremendous opportunity out there, but for most people that only know, the banks, real estate, and stocks, those are dangerous areas. Canadian real estate is not in good shape. It's all over the place, and there's going to be restrictions on foreign investors investing in Canada. On top of that, that real estate market is going to put the Canadian banks in trouble, which is why I brought up C-15, and then keeping your money in the bank is not an option anymore because you're not making any return, and the banks will steal your money. So, again, at this point, we have alternative assets. I love certain commodities at this point we think are going to do well. And even though the U.S. dollar is going to strengthen tremendously, I'm not looking for gold to fall apart because this week alone, President Trump has threatened North Korea. And North Korea is now testing their missiles again. And now the United States and South Korea are testing missiles. So I don't like the way that things are going in that area. That's why gold is supported, even though it dropped $16 on Thursday and it's down another $8 on Friday. I am anticipating that the market in gold will fall back, but it's not going to fall back as much as everybody thinks. I think that the market will be supported and will be in a position very, very soon, just to let everybody know that our gold deal has now been approved. We're finally getting the right type of gold from our mines. The U.S. government has now approved our gold deal, and we will soon be able to offer to our Canadian clients physical gold listen to this, physical gold at spot price with no commissions. In actual fact, I'm working on a program at this point that will allow you to store your gold with us through a Brinks-related subsidiary. You'll not pay hardly any storage whatsoever, and I'll be able to trade your gold for you with no commission. So, for example, if we buy gold at 1,000 and it goes to 1,400, and I feel at that point that gold is going to sell off, we can take our profits of $400 an ounce, sit back, wait for the market to recorrect, and then buy it again, and it will not cost you a penny in commission. This is what we do for our clients. We do not charge for the radio show, for seminars, for advice, for anything that we do for our Canadian clients. The fact is that we've got some of the biggest bull markets ever, and we're looking forward to some massive bull markets coming up over the next 4 to 8 years. So please, do yourself a favor and get in touch with us. Let us explain to you what your options are, how to get out of Canadian dollars into U.S. dollar-based investments that will make you more than 25% a year.
Connect with Harold. RareColoredDiamonds.com. RareColoredDiamonds.com. 1-800-432-1022. 1-800-432-1022. Coming up in the second half of the show, we'll talk about diamonds. Our featured diamond this week is a .42 carat radiant cut, fancy light purplish pink diamond ring. It's a ring. It's a beauty. See it online. RareColoredDiamonds.com, featured diamond of the week. As Harold stated, this week the Bank of Canada held interest rates at 0.5%. The bank cited significant uncertainties weighing on the outlook for the Canadian economy. The Bank of Canada has decided to keep its trend-setting interest rate at 0.5 percentage point. That was Wednesday. The central bank, led by Governor Stephen Poloz, elected to neither raise nor lower its target for the overnight rate, citing significant uncertainties weighing on the outlook for the Canadian economy. And it was interesting to note the Canadian dollar has been suffering as the U.S. dollar is lifted by growth expectations of a Federal Reserve interest rate increase this month. The loonie is in a bad run here that's been going on for at least a week, and it's now mired below 75.75 cents. In fact, today, as we tape, it's right around 74.5. Even after the latest GDP data from Stats Canada showed the country's economy grew at 2.6% in the fourth quarter of 2016. Societe Generale currency strategist Kit Juquez warned his clients that the Canadian dollar is in trouble. Dynamic funds manager David Feingold, who has been a bear on Canada for some time, he says, I recommend zero exposure. Citing in part research from Macquarie's David Doyle, and we've talked about David Doyle in the past, also Jared Dillian, the Macquarie strategist, also a constant, obviously pessimist on the outlook for Canada, warns that Canada is weaker than the United States on important measures such as household debt service ratios, housing affordability, and auto sales. Further exacerbating the situation is that worker earnings growth has accelerated in the United States as it has weakened in Canada. Weekly wage growth is at a 20-year low, according to David Doyle in a report in late February. And we talked about David Doyle. He is saying, along with Harold, get out of the U.S. dollar, get out of the Canadian dollar and get into the U.S. dollar. That is the place to be. It's interesting, obviously, that U.S. President Trump in the United States was jawboning the U.S. dollar down. His Treasury Secretary says a strong dollar is a good thing. Contradicting what Trump has said several times, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said that the stronger U.S. dollar is a good thing and signals investor confidence in America, according to an interview in the Wall Street Journal. Mnuchin, the former Goldman Sachs banker and hedge fund manager, commented on the dollar's strength in an interview with Rebecca Ballas. I think the strength of the dollar has a lot to do with the kind of basically what kind of economy we have relative to the rest of the world, and that the dollar continues to be the leading currency in the world, the leading reserve currency, and a reflection of the confidence that people have in the U.S. economy, that according to Steve Mnuchin. Harold, we have about 3 minutes left in our segment, but when you take into account, it's up to around 90%. We have a story that people can see in our free weekly newsletter. We can send it out to them via email, free of charge every week. Connect with Harold, 1-800-432-1022, rarecoloreddiamonds.com. But there were different Fed governors coming out and saying during the week, Fed officials, that yes, March, more than likely, they will raise rates on the 14th and the 15th when they meet. It was around 50%. It's now up to about 90%. And Harold, it looks like the trade that we've talked about is starting to come to fruition very strongly. Canadian dollar down, U.S. dollar up. 2 minutes left.
You bet. Again, this is something that I was pretty positive on. We started making the move on that about 5 years ago. Our clients have made a ton of money from it. However, we're getting further and further confirmation that this is one of the best trades on the board. And again, this is something that we definitely want to take advantage of. It's a long-term trend, and the U.S. dollar will continue to get stronger and stronger. In fact, it's happening right in front of your very eyes. So it's only a matter of picking up the phone and calling me and letting me explain it to you. If it makes sense, we can go ahead and do it together. If it doesn't make sense, you simply take a pass on it, but at least you'll have the information you need to make an intelligent business decision.
Speak with Harold, 1-800-432-1022, 1-800-432-1022. The website is rarecoloreddiamonds.com. A couple of interesting notes from the week. And this is a stunning number, to say the least. The world's biggest banks have been fined $321 billion since the financial crisis. You heard right. $321 billion in fines since 2008 for an abundance of regulatory failings, from money laundering to market manipulation and terrorist financing, according to data from Boston Consulting Group. Also, one of the stories that caught my attention, a tax-funded bank in the UK, Royal Bank of Scotland, has lost $74 billion in 9 years. You heard right. $74 billion in 9 years. They don't see things changing until 2018. Also, Venezuela is down to its last $10 billion. They're running out of cash. So you can see some of the situations around the world that are happening this week financially. Get our free weekly newsletter. Connect with Harold, 1-800-432-1022. The website is rarecoloreddiamonds.com. We're going to come back and talk about diamonds as the World Financial Report on Radio with Harold Siegel and me, Randy Marshall, continues right after this. Welcome back to the World Financial Report on Radio with Harold Siegel. My name is Randy Marshall. Joining us by the telephone, our financial and diamond expert, Harold Siegel. We're taping our show on March the 3rd, 2017. Our time is 9:05 Mountain. Radio show runs on 6:30 CHED in Edmonton, Sunday afternoon at 3. Next Sunday, we're going to be on from 2:30 to 3:30, March the 12th, 2:30 to 3:30, as the Montreal Canadiens in town to play our Oilers at Rogers Place at 5 o'clock, the face-off show starting at 3 o'clock. And if the Oilers get into the playoffs, and it's looking good so far, obviously we have a good homestand here. If they make a good run and make the playoffs, we will be on, and we will keep you up to date the different times that possibly could be affected by Oiler hockey. Connect with Harold at rarecoloreddiamonds.com, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, 1-800-432-1022. The website, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, featured diamond of the week. It's an extremely rare 0.42 carat radiant cut, fancy light, purplish pink diamond ring. And Harold, when people go see this diamond, It is a real museum-type piece. In fact, when you see it online, it has such a great provenance about it, and it really stands out. The video, it really pops on the video and the pictures. This diamond in a ring is a beauty.
It certainly is, and it actually looks like a Super Bowl ring. I always thought. I just think it's a beauty. You know, the thing is that it's got a gorgeous diamond in there, a really nice size, almost a half a carat. The color on it is beautiful. The ring itself is gorgeous, and it's an argyle pink. So the fact is that the argyle mine is going to close in less than 3 years, and we expect that the price of argyle pink diamonds are just going to continue to climb and climb and climb. Depending on the color and the size and all that will determine how high it goes, but the fact is I think it's one of the best investments out there. And again, it's an asset that will never decline in value because there's not going to be any more of them. Because the mine produces 95% of all pink diamonds, and once the mine closes, we do believe that we will never see another mine that produces hardly any pink diamonds at all. So it is a very special ring. There's no doubt about that.
See it online. Featured Diamond of the Week, rarecoloreddiamonds.com. This 0.42 carat radiant cut, fancy light, purplish pink diamond ring. It is a beauty. One of the stories we found during the week, and this is a very interesting story. Diamonds, the new alternative asset. And they say in this article in early February, I reported on the continued slow death of cash in America and around the globe. As consumers, we find ourselves relying more on digital forms of cash through credit cards, apps, and even cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin. But keeping our wealth locked up in digital form puts it more in the control of banks and the government. The trail left by our wealth is easier to follow, putting a crimp on our privacy, and it's far easier to confiscate in the form of a bank holiday a la Cyprus or Greece. But what if you could store your wealth in a hard asset that not only offers strong price growth, but easy portability, and you just can't get that in the bar of gold? Diamonds have been greatly overlooked as a store of wealth, and it's obviously very highly portable. For decades, De Beers sold us on the idea that diamonds are a measurement of love and commitment, but beyond engagement rings and the celebration of milestones in life, diamonds continue to be a great store of wealth, much like gold. And they actually go on and they interview Joseph Lipton, and he's the CEO of Secured Worldwide LCC. And they talk in this article about privacy, portability, all the pluses of owning diamonds in your portfolio. And I encourage you to get this article from Harold. Connect with him, 1-800-432-1022, 1-800-432-1022, or rarecoloreddiamonds.com. And we'll stay right up front. We're not saying to do anything illegal. Follow all laws, obey all laws, do exactly what the governments tell you to do, but having portable private wealth that you hold in your hand and you can keep in your own personal safe, Harold, is something that people need to look at in the times that we live in.
You better believe it, especially, people that live in Europe and other areas where their currencies are being affected in such a huge way. Most people don't understand the currency markets. I personally have traded them for 35 years and have a fairly strong understanding of them, and have done very well for my clients trading in the currency market. The beautiful thing about owning an alternative asset like a rare colored diamond is that it can be sold anywhere in the world. It can be sold in British pounds, euros, Japanese yens, Chinese yuans, American dollars, Canadian dollars, whatever. Whatever currency is doing well, it's only a matter of trying to advertise or sell that diamond in that particular area. We're building our auction business, and it's a worldwide business because people can actually attend our auctions on their iPhone, on their iPad, or on their computer. In fact, you could definitely download 8 Siegel Fine Auctions app right at the App Store. So, again, the world is crazy right now. Most countries are sitting with zero interest rates. They're not doing well. Their countries are not doing well. Their currencies are not doing well. We remember what happened in 2016 with England and their Brexit situation. People that didn't do anything just sat there and watched their currency drop by 25% in one day. Now, even though they knew that the potential of that was to happen, most people didn't do anything about it. Those that did protected themselves and made an awful lot of money. You could say a similar situation is happening in the Canadian dollar. We know it's dropping substantially. We know because of oil and real estate and what's happening in the United States with interest rates, that Canada's dollar is going to drop substantially. So why would we just sit there and watch it happen instead of taking advantage of it and making money with it? And the beautiful thing about the currency markets is that if you do own an alternative asset like a diamond, a rare colored diamond, it can be sold in those other currencies. Right now, the currency to own is the U.S. dollar, and the alternative asset to own are rare colored diamonds. I think it just makes a phenomenal combination, because with the world the way it is and currencies and all the risk and everything and the fear of the White House and everything that's going to happen possibly, with Trump and the United States, people are buying alternative assets. That's why I believe the gold is going to not drop below the 1,000 level. I think it's going to sustain itself and then eventually rally very strong. We need to own assets that are based in U.S. dollars. The U.S. is the only country in the world that can raise interest rates and are raising interest rates, and we need to take advantage of that. We also need to get some money out of stocks and alternative other assets and get them into rare-colored diamonds. It's one of the best investments that you could make.
And one thing to compare is to investing in stocks. The average Canadian equity fund produced a 20-year annual average return of 5.8%, which was sadly a drift of the 7.2% delivered by the S&P TSX Composite if you weren't in a mutual fund, just an index. And that's why we're saying look at alternative assets, things that have a proven track record, that are different than the stock market, bond market, real estate. And that's where we get into some of the investments that Harold has. The most secure and profitable investment, billions of years in the making, rare-colored diamonds, nature's art, private, portable, stable wealth. Speak with Harold today about some of the different programs he has in place where you can invest and start making money immediately. Develop your own diamond portfolio if you choose. Get a free copy of our weekly World Financial Report on Radio newsletter. It's the companion to our radio show. You'll be on the same page that Harold and I are on, and you'll get a chance to see all the articles that we're reading on a weekly basis. You can go through the entire newsletter in 5 minutes or spend hours. It's up to you, but it's critical. How do you invest today so you can retire tomorrow? That is the big question. And that is something that Harold has been thinking about and working with our radio listeners on for a long period of time. His ultimate goal is to get you to a position where you're making money and you have a strong, obviously, retirement coming your way in the future. And that's why we do the radio show. And Harold has said many times, give him a call. He speaks with weekly, obviously, hundreds of people on a weekly basis, people who listen to the radio show, and he'll be happy to talk to you. All you need to do is give him a call, 1-800-432-1022. But if you look at where we are today, as Harold touched on, Bill C-15, what does that mean for the average everyday Canadian investor? If you've not heard about it, educate yourself. Speak with Harold. Also, negative interest rates. Here we are in Canada at a half a point. They lower it any further, we're going to be into negative territory. In fact, story coming out this week in Germany where there's talk of them being at negative 1%. We're seeing a weakening Canadian dollar, and we saw that this week in a major way. Also, concerns about housing crashes in Vancouver. Obviously, they've taken precautions, but sales are way down, listings are way down, prices can't be far behind. In Toronto, It was just released this morning. The average home, $1.5 million. People struggling to find a place to live because the inventory is so low. Even renting is very difficult, and rent's going up dramatically every month. So at some point, that bubble will burst. You get into a cashless society, as we've talked about, lots of questions, and if you're looking for the answers, that's why we do our radio show. That's why we offer alternative assets like diamonds, gold, silver. Connect with Harold, 1-800-432-1022, 1-800-432-1022. The website is rarecoloreddiamonds.com. And when we talk about diamonds, it's privacy, portability, estate planning, price stability, and good long-term growth. And Harold, when we talk about estate planning, we think of the blue diamond that we've talked about many times that Shirley Temple's dad purchased in 1944 for around $7,200. And last year it went to auction for $25 to $35 million. It did end up selling privately for over that $25 million mark. But just imagine having a family heirloom that was purchased and held on to for 50, 60, 70 years, taken to auction at some point. The family could benefit in a way that would today be obviously something that no one could even know or even wonder what the potential would be. But they would be so thankful that that investment was made many, many years ago.
You bet. And it was really spectacular that a diamond that was purchased, even though it was 76 years ago or 77 years ago, it was purchased for $7,100 and sold for $25 million. The fact is that she was still alive during that time, so she saw the appreciation. But again, the heirs to that family heirloom just made out extremely well. That's why, with my grandchildren primarily, I've put away diamonds for them as opposed to stocks or anything paper. It would have been a real catastrophe if I would have put away for my children and all that stock certificates, for example, for General Motors, and then found out in 2008 that they were bankrupt. So that will never happen with a hard asset like a diamond or gold or anything like that. So we really need to sit down and think about how we're investing today, and realizing that most of the investments that our parents and grandparents made in the past do not work today. It's a totally different world. And the fact is that interest rates and currencies have an awful lot to do with how you actually do in your investment, and we're here to help you with that. I've traded currencies, for over 35 years. I've picked some of the biggest trends in currencies, and the one that we're in right now is one of the most profitable trends that I think we will ever see, and we have plenty of time still to get involved in this. So please, if you're unhappy with your investments, if you're concerned that you're never going to be able to retire with interest rates going negative and the stock market way too risky for most people, just give me a call. Let me explain to you what your options are and what you could do moving forward. I'll give you the information and see if it helps you. If it doesn't, simply take a pass on it. But you certainly owe it to yourself in order to learn what the alternative asset market is and how in the world you could possibly profit by it.
Call Harold. Mark this number down, 1-800-432-1022, 1-800-432-1022. The website, rarecoloreddiamonds.com. Featured diamond, a .42 carat, radiant cut, fancy light, purplish pink diamond ring. See the video for this diamond at rarecoloreddiamonds.com, featured diamond of the week. Get our newsletter as well. We have a great article, Diamonds, the New Alternative Asset, and that is a must-read. We can send it out to you. A few of the articles that we found this week I thought were interesting. It goes to show when money almost becomes worthless, as crazy as it sounds, when interest rates are negative or almost negative, people look to hard assets. There was an article about investing in 80s era classic cars. People looking at that era. I know it seems strange, the 80s, but that's a market that people are starting to dip their toe into. As well, there's a Francis Bacon painting that may reach $70 million at Christie's, a portrait of Francis Bacon's lover, may reach 70 million at Christie's in May, and it's going to test the health of the high-end art market. It's called Three Studies of a Portrait of George Dyer. It was painted in 1963. Also, Gustav Klimt's Bauerngarten sold for a record $59.3 million. The Austrian painter has become very well known, obviously, and the third most expensive artwork ever sold at auction in Europe. It went for a price of $59.3 million. It was originally painted in 1907, oil painting of a garden filled with poppy, daisies, and other flowers. And that was at Sotheby's. Harold, we see it with rare-colored diamonds, and the Wall Street Journal believes we can send this story out to our radio listeners. We've had it in our newsletter, talked about it on the air, that rare-colored diamonds are actually at the forefront of hard asset collecting right now, superseding art and cars and watches and handbags. But it's amazing to see all the different money that is moving into these markets, even jewelry, the jewelry market. We had an article on that too. They're moving into these markets because they're not going to sit and be at a negative yield of 1%, as is the case in Germany, or here in Canada earning 0.5%. People are finding alternatives for their money, and that's why, as you've talked about, Harold, you're in the alternative asset business due to what's happening around the world because of central banks. They're debasing their money and not paying a proper interest rate due to the financial crisis. And now we're in a position where people are shifting their money around to alternative assets to actually have a chance at making money in the environment that we're in.
You bet. And it's not easy. You know, if it was easy, everybody could do it. But it isn't. And the fact is that, fortunately, this is something that we've done for 35 years. So there's no doubt that most countries at this point and most investors are doing terribly. They don't know what to do. Even with the tremendous rally in the Dow Jones at this particular time, it doesn't help most people. If you're actually betting on the actual S&P 500 or the Dow, but if you're picking individual stocks, 90% of the people lose when they do that. And this market has only been strong since Trump has gotten in. But you're also talking about a very volatile market that, changes with every word that comes out of his mouth. I personally have a lot of faith in him. I believe that he's the businessman that could make things happen. And I think a lot of money is going to be made in the United States and in the U.S. dollar. And if we believe that, then we have to commit to it. I've committed to it 100%, as have many of my clients. At this particular point, if you're unhappy with how your investments are going and you cannot see a clear path to retirement, you need to give me a call so I can explain what your options are and show you how to get into a lucrative alternative investment that's going to pay you in U.S. dollars.
Speak with Harold. The telephone number, 1-800-432-1022. The website, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, featured diamond. See it online. Featured diamond of the week, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, 0.42 carat, radiant cut, fancy light, purplish pink diamond ring. This is a beauty. And we have to remind people that Harold Siegel was the leader in this market. The year was 2005. In fact, August of that year, so here we are 12 years on, Harold wrote a report, Naturally Fancy Colored Diamonds, the Best Kept Secret. And from that article sprung a website, rarecoloreddiamonds.com, and the rest is history. And if you take a look at investing in rare-colored diamonds, in the last 12 years, they have been massive winners. Their value and rarity is recognized globally and can be sold in any currency, which is so important. The easiest, safest, and most discreet way to transport wealth in the world. And it's not directly tied to any global market, which safeguards against market volatility and uncertainty. Less than 1% of all colored diamonds are mined and are considered investment grade. Colored diamonds are the most concentrated form of wealth in the world. No new mines are producing colored diamonds. Colored diamond mines are shutting down without replacements, as we know, with the Argyle mine shutting down in 2020. And what you need now more than ever, a hard asset that diversifies your portfolio securely and is not going to be affected by volatility in other financial markets. And based on diminishing world supply, and we've heard this from Bain & Company and reports from De Beers, they're predicting dramatic price increases in the immediate future due to dwindling supplies. And these are just of regular diamonds, not rare-colored diamonds. And so what will that do to rare-colored diamonds? Probably drive up the price even further based on their rarity. They're much rarer than white diamonds. And fancy-colored diamond prices have never decreased in 30 years. And if you'd like to educate yourself, learn more about this rare-colored diamond market, Harold Siegel is the man to talk to. He brought us that report back in 2005, and the website rarecoloreddiamonds.com, and it has been an amazing journey for 12 years, seeing different auctions from Christie's and Sotheby's, and all the diamonds that have been sold, blue diamonds and green diamonds and pink diamonds. It has been one heck of a ride. But Harold, with about 2 minutes left, the best is yet to come, we believe.
Oh, yes. I can't wait to see what diamonds come up for auction. Big, important diamonds in 2017. It's always exciting to see what they sell for. But we will be having our own auctions, and we just actually viewed our new auction site last night. It's spectacular. We're going to start to work on that, and we plan on having an auction in March and having auctions every month after that. So, again, we're just ecstatic about what's happening in the alternative asset market. We love what's happening in the U.S. dollar. It's going to make our clients a ton of money, and the fact is that we need to take advantage of that. But at this point, again, I think we have a very good feeling as to what's happening in the world marketplace, and all we want to do is help our Canadian clients get through some difficult times and start to make money in these markets again.
Connect with Harold. Take a look at our featured diamond, 0.42 carat radiant cut, fancy light purplish pink diamond ring. RareColoredDiamonds.com, 1-800-432-1022. Read our article over that we have in our free weekly newsletter, Diamonds, a New Alternative Asset. And according to Joseph Lipton, CEO of Secured Worldwide LCC, he says diamonds are a portable alternative store of savings and wealth that are being increasingly utilized for diversification. And in a new and uncertain world where surprises will continue to catch us off guard, portability should absolutely be understood as diversification. The ability to easily move savings and wealth is not a feature of precious metals, real estate, or most collectibles, but it is for diamonds. They are arguably and he goes on to say, the densest, the most portable form of savings and wealth in existence. Real estate is fixed. 1 million worth of gold weighs about 10 kilos, as much as a large car tire, but a handful of collection quality diamonds can be worth more than millions and easily fit in a pocket. And if you would like to educate yourself further, speak with Harold Siegel at RareColoredDiamonds.com, RareColoredDiamonds.com, 1-800-432-1022. And Harold, thank you for your knowledge and another great show.
It's my pleasure, Randy. I wish everybody a wonderful weekend and a very profitable day.
Don't forget, next week, the Montreal Canadiens are in town. Yes, there will be a few Montreal fans at Rogers Place, so we need to drown them out, Oil fans. Canadians and Oilers at 5 o'clock next Sunday. We will be on 2:30 to 3:30. The Face Shop Show will be on at 3:30. Good luck to the Oil throughout the week as they play. That's it. Another edition of the World Financial Report on Radio with Harold Siegel and me, Randy Marshall. We will talk to you next week.